While we're used to counting backward now to Election Day, we're still well into primary season across the country for people running for Congress, among other things. On Tuesday, Marjorie Taylor Greene won a runoff election to become the Republican nominee in Georgia's 14th congressional district. Now, that district has been reliably red over the years, and Greene, who is a small business owner, will likely win the House seat in November. Now, here's the thing. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a racist conspiracy theorist. It's all there for people to see on social media. In her words, racist, Islamophobic, anti-Semitic views, and for good measure, she promotes a litany of right-wing QAnon conspiracies. Now, if you're not familiar with QAnon, here's a quick crash course, according to the Anti-Defamation League. QAnon followers, quote, believe world governments are being controlled by a shadowy cabal of pedophiles who will eventually be brought to justice by President Trump. And like clockwork, Trump tweeted his support for Greene after her win. At a press briefing yesterday, a reporter asked him about it, and he didn't like that too much.
You congratulated Marjorie Taylor Greene in a tweet. You called her a future Republican star. Greene has been a proponent of the QAnon conspiracy theory. She said it's something that would be worth listening to. Do you agree with her on that?
Well, she did very well in the election. She won by a lot. She was very popular. She comes from a great state. And she had a tremendous victory, so absolutely, I did congratulate her. Please, go ahead.
Specifically on QAnon and her decision to embrace that conspiracy theory. Do you agree with her on that? That was the question.
Go ahead, please.
Greene's history of supporting QAnon is well documented. NBC News recently uncovered that she wrote dozens of articles about its theories and even served as a correspondent for a conspiracy news website. In a post from 2017, Greene, quote, wrote favorably of the QAnon conspiracy theory, suggesting that Hillary Clinton murdered her political enemies and ruminated on whether mass shootings were orchestrated to dismantle the Second Amendment. Not only does she deny elements of history that are commonly held as fact, she also has doubts about one of the most disastrous events of the 21st century.
We had witnessed 9/11, right? We had witnessed 9/11, the terrorist attack in New York, and the plane that crashed in Pennsylvania, and the so-called plane that crashed into the Pentagon. It's odd, there's never any evidence shown for a plane in the Pentagon.
The so-called plane that crashed at the Pentagon. All right, we've clearly got a problem here, but Marjorie Taylor Greene is just the tip of the iceberg. A recent internal investigation by Facebook exposed thousands of QAnon pages and groups that have millions of members and followers. And while this paradigm is, or at least was, entirely fringe, it does seem to be picking up mainstream and could present itself elsewhere on Capitol Hill. Just think of how many important bills have passed by super small margins in Congress. The 2018 Farm Bill passed by 2 votes. In 2017, the Republican-led House was able to dismantle Obamacare by 4 votes. Even just a handful of votes wields a ton of power. So visualize what can happen if some of that power is ceded to conspiracy theorists who peddle outlandish and dangerous fiction, or just plain old racism. Marjorie Taylor Greene might be the first QAnon candidate to make her way to Congress, but she probably will not be the last. Joining me now are the 2 NBC News reporters who have written extensively on this topic, my good friends Brandy Zadrozny and Ben Collins. Brandy, you and I talked about this the other night, and Ben, on Friday, I believe you published a brand new piece about this. So let's start with you, Ben. Bring us up to speed. For people who are watching this, don't really know what QAnon is, what is it?
I think a lot of people assume conspiracy theory, it couldn't be that bad, right? Maybe you watch Unsolved Mysteries or something and think like that. It's not like that. It's very dangerous stuff. There was a guy who posted on this website called 8chan, now it's called 8kun, and he claimed 3 years ago that Hillary Clinton was about to be arrested and that the deep state was activated and, the National Guard was activated to take down the deep state. And there were going to be protests all throughout the country because she was about to be arrested for running a satanic child-eating cabal. That's the kind of thing we're dealing with here. It's not standard conspiracy stuff. It's really out there things, and these people are waiting for a judgment day to come. What we've realized is that people who are sort of diving down rabbit holes during the pandemic because they're nervous about job security, or they lost their job, or a loved one's sick and they want to find answers for this. QAnon supporters have taken advantage of these people and have sort of spread that group outward in that time.
Brandy, you and I have talked a lot on the show with Ben about nonsense that spreads on the internet, disinformation and misinformation. feels to me like this falls into its own category. It's not just people retweeting or reposting misleading articles. This seems to be almost, it sort of sounds to me like it borders on a belief system.
It's a cult, Allie. It's a religion. It's, these people that are like Marjorie Taylor Greene was, who are spending all of their time on the internet sort of bathing in these conspiracy theories. They have utilized social media not just to read and maybe share with their friends group, but to actually congregate together in Facebook groups, in subreddits, but in these groups to just share and be radicalized with this information all day long. Like Ben said, the pandemic has only made things worse. And so these people are just there all day. We've seen, like I reported this week, Facebook groups have grown exponentially with QAnon, and the people are becoming more radicalized. We can see it in their conversation.
I want to just read from your article, Ben, how QAnon rode the pandemic to new heights and fueled viral anti-mask phenomenon. The question I've got for you is how do people get involved in this? You wrote that while QAnon bubbled on the fringes of the internet for years, researchers and experts say it's emerged in recent months as a sort of a centralized hub for conspiracy and alternative health communities. You were saying that sort of people started off in things that seemed a lot more benign, like wellness communities, and somehow worked their way into these full-on conspiracy theories that involve eating babies and things like that.
Yeah, you might think this is a strictly far-right phenomenon. After all, in this theory, really the only rule is that Donald Trump is the only good guy. He is here to go save the world from the satanic cannibals. You would think that that is a strictly far-right phenomenon. Recently, it isn't. We saw a lot of groups who were wellness communities, people who were interested in alternative health. People would, the algorithm would sort these people together with the QAnon people. They would say, oh, alternative health, maybe they're into anti-vax. If they're anti-vax, maybe they're into Donald Trump. And within 1 or 2 clicks, people would go down these very bad paths. Now, I'm sure you've seen these videos. Every weekend, there's a new one of people trashing a Target or yelling at essential workers at the supermarket about masks and saying they're for slaves and things like that. There's an ecosystem on Facebook that rewards this. This is why it's happening. On Facebook, in QAnon communities, in these wellness communities, they are using these videos as sort of recruiting tools, saying, hey, you're not alone. That lady freaking out at Target, she is, in fact, she's speaking the truth here. So we may view this rationally. We may view this as, somebody flipping out in a store on a person making minimum wage. And that is correct. But on Facebook, there's an entirely different audience. Like there was a woman, there are 2 people in this store that I saw who a month before they went and they trashed a Target like you're seeing right now, or they went to the Palm Beach County Commissioners meeting and told everyone that they're all pedophiles. A month beforehand, they weren't even Donald Trump fans. But Facebook sorted them into this group so quickly and radicalized them so fast that they determined that this was the best course of action.
So, Brandy, again, we're not seeing active disavowing from Donald Trump, as we saw he congratulated Marjorie Greene. What are we seeing from the Republican Party, from folks who really don't want this stuff interfering in their own brand?
Very little. Apparently, Ms. Greene is going to be placed on a committee. There have been 1 or 2 Republicans who've come out and said this is a dangerous ideology and we want no part of it. And those people have been quickly harassed on social media by QAnon followers who are very, very good at swarming together and harassing. And, like we said before, Allie, this is not a fringe movement anymore. Thousands of Facebook groups, millions of members. That is what we call a political base at this point. And you can see that Republicans are fine with using that to their advantage.
Thanks to both of you for your great reporting on this, and I do recommend to my viewers to follow both of you about important reporting on QAnon and conspiracy theories that are out there that could spread to relatives or people you know, and you could end up hearing them at the dinner table. Brandy Zadrozny, NBC News reporter, and Ben Collins, NBC News technology reporter. Thanks to both of you.